Hey, it's Colleen.
Hi, it's Kate.
And it's Megan.
And we're the
Three Scheme Queens. Join us as we discuss popular hoaxes and give you our comedic take on what is fact and what is fiction. If you have a sense of humor and an open mind, come take this journey with us.
We'll tell you what we think, and we'll try to prove it to you.
Is this thing on?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Hi. How y'all
For drum roll, please. Saison 3. Estación 2. Also, I think trois is 3
Yeah,
in French.
Yeah.
So,
doing?
apologies. I did not take French
My
in any of the courses.
I think it is deux. It's the correct answer.
Okay.
My French accent.
I love that. Thank you.
Starting off right.
Thank you so much for sharing.
You got Kate here hosting only her second
Second.
ever episode.
Look at me. Number
Yeah.
2. Oh, yeah. I graduated.
How's it feel to be a graduate?
It feels great. Thank
Are
you for everyone who journeyed with me and listened to me talk about school.
And guys, we have a new social media manager.
Yeah.
So head on over to the gram and see the hard work that's been happening.
Yeah.
Wicked funny.
Oh, that's me. It's Kate. I would like to shout out Colleen's brother, Timmy. This is coming out the Tuesday before your wedding. Happy wedding week, Timmy.
Timmy requested this episode quite some time ago.
On the gram.
And Timmy's a supportive follower. You know who
Yeah.
else is real supportive? Is
Erica.
his soon-to-be wife, Erica.
We
so,
love Ricky.
so happy wedding week.
Yes. Happy wedding week. Shout out to Timmy.
Timothy.
99.7 The Ride.
Guys, just a reminder, don't forget to check out our Facebook and Instagram pages at 3 Scheme Queens. That's the number 3 Scheme Queens, all one word. We're also on Reddit, same username. If you want to check out our website, go to 3schemequeens.com and you can find links to our social media accounts, our Buzzsprout page, all of our episodes, additional content, our contact page, and our discussion board where you can engage with us and share any updates on the topics that we have discussed. Let us know how we're doing and what you want to hear next. There are also opportunities to financially support us. There are links to buy us a cup of coffee, links to our recently updated merch store, and affiliate links. And as always, if you choose not to financially support us, we appreciate the follows, the downloads, listens, the likes. Kate, what should the people do?
Yeah, scroll on down, leave us a 5-star review, leave us a comment, share us on your family group chat, share us on your Instagram, share us on any sort of social media platform that you use. And yeah, thanks for the likes.
So is it time for our
Drink check.
Drink check.
guys? Kate and Colleen stopped at cat yoga.
Yeah,
God, kitten yoga.
kitten yoga through the animal shelter.
And
I
only-
will say, full disclosure, that Colleen was planning this activity and I was working or something and I wasn't responding. And Colleen goes, "Should I get a ticket for Megan?" Kate said,
She's not going. She's not going to come.
Kate
No.
Kate was like, yoga and cats,
It's a no.
not
You
Megan's
kidding
thing.
me?
Hard no for Megan.
I think you would have liked it. They didn't even come near you.
But it sounds like it was a great time. On the way over here afterwards, they stopped. And Kate, what'd you get us for our drink check?
Yeah, so when I was researching this episode and actually while we were in Egypt, there is like a ton of tea. The Egyptians really like their hibiscus tea. And so Starbucks has their passion tea lemonade, and I'm a longtime fan of a passion tea lemonade. I always say it's not summer until I get a PTL, you know? Anyway, right now we're drinking a passion tea lemonade from Starbucks. Passion tea's star player is a hibiscus.
Wow.
So
Generally, I don't like hibiscus because I don't like
It
My
just
drink.
I don't like flowery
it does
things
not give
either. Yeah.
floral.
I would say that this PTL is not overpowering with the hibiscus.
No, it's like got a really good
I like to get mine
tangy
unsweetened.
flavor.
Unsweetened PTO.
I do too.
Yeah.
Always, these are unsweetened.
All right, Kate, kick us off.
So today we're talking about the ancient Egyptian pyramids. Ancient Egypt is located in northeastern Africa along the Nile River. It lasted for over 3,000 years from the years 3100 BC to 30 BC. And fun fact for all your trivia people, this makes it the longest surviving civilization in history. During this time, Egypt was a leading cultural and economic influence in North Africa and parts of the Levant. It was ruled by 170 pharaohs and left behind many monuments, including pyramids and temples, as well as hieroglyphic writing. The civilians, rulers, languages, writing, climate, religion, and borders changed many times over the millennia, but Egypt still exists today. The pyramids of ancient Egypt still continue today, but the question remains, how were these magnificent pyramids built? Their construction, especially the Great Pyramid of Giza, is one of the most fascinating and enduring mysteries of ancient engineering. So there's like two major theories that people have like discussed. One is that aliens built them, that they were put here by the aliens along with the Egyptians. And two, that slaves actually built the Egyptian pyramids. First of all, I would like to know, do you guys buy into any of these? Have you heard of any theories?
I fall asleep every night to 3-hour-long YouTube videos, and one of my frequent favorites is the Discovery Channel on YouTube.
Right.
They've got like 30 episodes on the pyramids.
Oh yeah, there's a ton.
And like I feel like the Egyptians were like inspired by future technology,
Fair.
which
Okay.
would have been like aliens telling them that.
That's fair.
Maybe.
And you, Maggie, you have an opinion? That's my opinion.
I don't believe that extraterrestrial life built pyramids.
Okay,
Like,
fair.
what would be. Listen, we've talked about this before. It's one thing to come and be exploring. We think, what are they looking for? We think maybe a resource, right? But, like, why would they, like, build, like, construct entire towns, cities, whatever, and then not live in them?
Okay.
I've got a random question. I've got to ask it now because I'm going to forget my question. Are the pyramids throughout Egypt or just one area?
Oh, no. They're in different areas.
I mean, of
what
course I
you
know
think
this
of
because
as
we
the
were there.
pyramid is, so there's like 3 pyramids that are kind of all together
There's
in,
only 3?
in Giza. And that's what people think of when they think of the Egyptian pyramids. Okay, so
They're huge.
the Great Pyramid of Giza is considered to be one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was built as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu. And the Great Pyramid is 500 feet tall and it covers more than 13 acres. It's made out of approximately 2.3 million limestone blocks. And each of those blocks are said to be, or approximated to weigh 2.5 tons.
When did they start building
That
it?
is a great question. It took them 20 years to construct this
Wow.
Great Pyramid.
13 acres?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Massive.
You think of how many
20
chickens we
years?
could own on that? We could have our compound.
20
Yeah.
years doesn't seem like a lot to build that. Like, I was expecting a couple hundred.
No. Okay.
20 years.
How many?
That
How
at
many blocks?
365 days a year,
Yeah.
How many blocks
millions.
2.3 million.
that are bigger than Bourbon Boy?
I mean, bigger than like an elephant, right?
20 years?
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
Okay.
Sounds like they had some help.
Okay. Well, okay. When you think of the pyramids in Egypt, you think of like 3 pretty like big pyramids that they're talking about. These are located in the Giza necropolis. And these pyramids were built between 2550 and 2490 BC. And they were created as tombs for the Egyptian kings Khufu, Khafra, and Menkura. So basically, Khufu, who came from a long line of pharaohs,
Okay.
the Egyptians had been sort of doing pyramids, but not to the scale of what we think of when we think of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Most of them were like smaller, and you can still see them. They're still standing. They're just not as magnificent as what we think of when we think of pyramids.
Okay.
And that sort of plays into later in the show. But this is, Khufu wasn't the one who immediately thought of this. Like, he came first, then Khafra, then Menkora. And Khufu started the pyramids. He's the one who headed up this project for the Great Pyramid. And then after that, the two pharaohs after that, they each have a pyramid called the Pyramid of Khafra and the Pyramid of Menkora. And then they also have the Great Sphinx, which, is the head of a man and the body of a lion. And this stands near the pyramids. So each one of these pharaohs sort of headed up their own project to create their own tomb.
So what made these pharaohs are like, I want to build a memorial to myself, where I guess I'm going to, as I recall from elementary school, right? Where
Yeah.
you're going to rest after death.
Yeah.
With all of their belongings.
Right.
Why did they decide a pyramid was the shape they wanted to do?
The question, or the answer to your question, is a lot of the questions that archaeologists have, right? Why? Because there were pyramid-like structures, but not with the point at the top before the Great Pyramid of Giza. So before Khufu's pyramid.
What is a pyramid without a point at the top? Oh, like the step, like the
Yeah.
Aztecs
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
Mayans
yeah.
thing? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let me talk about these theories, and then I'm gonna tell you how it really is.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. The two largest theories. Number one, they were built by slaves. So Herodotus, have you guys heard of him? Okay, so he was this Greek author from the first great narrative generation. He went around, he was a reporter of sorts, and he would talk to people, and then he would write down historical events. He is sort of known as the father of history of the ancient world. And he said this: Pharaoh Khufu brought the country into all sorts of misery. He closed all the temples, and then, not content with excluding his subjects from the practice of their religion, compelled them, without exception, to labor as slaves for his own advantage. 100,000 men labored constantly and were relieved every 3 months by a fresh lot. The pyramid itself was 20 years in building. And this is from his second book that he published, Herodotus. However, Herodotus, not so reliable.
Ooh.
Apparently,
Interesting.
apparently Herodotus did talk to the people, but picked and choose what he put into the history books and sort of embellished along the way. His work.
It's like a journalist.
Yeah, he was like a journalist, CNN, if you will, right? So anyway, so he put together these works. He was sort of known as this father of history, and now he's not known as the father of history anymore. He's known as the father of lies, which is, yeah,
Father
that's
of
harsh.
some history.
Harsh. People, historians, have claimed that his work, again, contained biases, inaccuracies, and sometimes plagiarism. And sometimes he gives several accounts, or he would get these several accounts of the events, and then he would sort of put in what he thought was best. So yeah. So father of lies. Not so much what people believe. Also, Exodus in the Bible also alludes to Israelite slaves being made to do what Pharaoh wanted. However, the book of Exodus takes place about 1,000 years after the pyramids were built. And this takes place in what the Egyptians called the New Kingdom era, which dates around 1550 to 1070 BC. So, not a lot of evidence that supports the slave building theories.
Well, you know what I would say? I hesitate to believe the aliens did it,
Okay.
but also I think you might have told me in passing that there's like a water level on the pyramids, like they might have been submerged.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of buying into the USOs.
Yeah.
Oh, so they
You know,
built it under water.
so I had heard that, and then I saw like a random not a YouTube, I think it was
TikTok,
even like
like a reel,
like an
a reel.
Instagram about it, and then couldn't find anything else about it. So the water theory is out. But if you do look at the top of one of the pyramids, it is all eroded away
on one
like
level. Or
yeah,
whatever.
like from a point, and then the others that like are not as tall as that one pyramid have erosion all the way up. So like there is a theory that they were underwater at one point. Giant flood.
Oh,
I don't know.
biblical.
And that one tip of the pyramid was the only thing that was like actually, sitting up above the water.
Also, just like doesn't seem plausible that it was paid labor. That's why I feel like slaves make sense.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Yeah.
Why couldn't it be paid labor?
well, it sounds like it was a dictatorship.
I don't actually know anything about the governmental structure of
Of
a
each
pharaoh and a king. But I mean, aren't kings sort of like dictators? Like
That's what I'm thinking.
whatever they say goes.
I'm like, you're telling me all those ancient Egyptian civilians wanted to build a pyramid that
Yeah.
big?
Good
I
thought.
don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I'll hear
The type of government that existed in ancient Egypt was a theocratic dictatorship.
There you go.
The pharaoh was considered a god and held absolute power. Government was centered around religious beliefs, and the pharaohs acted as both political and religious leaders. Sounds like a massive
Problem.
cult.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, a cult would build a pyramid, so
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah.
they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like a practice that the pharaohs did for themselves. But this isn't the first pyramid. It's the first pyramid with a point and a giant pyramid, but
Oh,
it
'cause
is not
they
the
were all
first
flat
pyramid.
topped.
Yeah. Okay. So number 2, aliens. This just basically suggests that aliens came in, had this advanced technology, and helped the Egyptians build these pyramids. This was sort of taken flight. This theory took flight, like with social media and like Reddit and all those sort of, realm of these people would come in with their
And
partial,
Discovery Channel.
Discovery Channel, these partial like truths, and sort of these theories took off. So one of these theories said that aliens rather than the ancient Egyptians were actually responsible for constructing these pyramids. The argument, just like Colleen said, is that ancient Egyptians could not have possessed the technology, the engineering, the like precision, they were not able to move those tons of rock. They weren't able to cut the stone and to get them into building these like pyramids, right? That is what the theory is based on, is that the ancient Egyptians and humans could not do that without technology that we have today, which I think is kind of like, is that like centralist? Like a little bit like,
I mean, I'm just thinking about what our friend Kathy would say whenever Colleen says something like the moon landing couldn't happen because they couldn't have technology, or ventilators couldn't have existed in the 70s. And
in the 60s.
And Kathy is always like, there were smart people before your generation. Like, and that's
Well,
just kind
I
of what
don't
I'm
think
picking up to say. Like,
we're smart. I think technology smart. And we
Well, who
are
created the
assisted by
technology?
humans.
Yeah. So humans
think-
must be evolving to create. I don't know. But I guess that what it goes back to is kind of what you're saying, that, yeah, to be like, just to think that this technology, there couldn't have been technology because it was so long ago and they must have been stupid. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you that sounds like a very
It's like
Yeah.
this egotistical,
Exactly.
yeah, idea that like we are more advanced than these. When like, let's be honest, I couldn't build a house in my backyard. Like these people were doing that to live. So there's like
And it
there's
I don't know.
hieroglyphics that people argue. It's like these beings that are sort of like gods, right? That
Inspired them.
inspired these pyramids, and people read these hieroglyphics and have looked at them and said, well, clearly these like god
Alien.
beings that are being depicted in the hieroglyphics have to be aliens, and they're the ones that told these ancient Egyptians to build these pyramids like up towards the sky.
Mhm.
There are some really interesting facts about the pyramids that I would love to share, but that will come later.
But yeah, what did the hieroglyphics say?
That's just the
That's just
there
the
was a
theory.
picture
Yeah.
with ancient. This is where this theory comes from. There's a picture with, you know, Pharaoh and this being that like people, you know, is probably one of their gods or a god that they worshipped that people have associated with extraterrestrial beings.
Okay, so they just think that someone else was there
Yeah,
and
Instead-
maybe they had the knowledge.
right.
Yeah.
There's no evidence that supports this. There is no evidence
Other
like
than the
our
hieroglyphics.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess pictures are open to interpretation, right? There's no like there's so much research that goes into like the ancient Egyptian pyramids. Like archaeologists are all over that place, like, you know, scouring, and there has been zero text, like there has been zero artifacts, there's been nothing that supports extraterrestrial life that has been dug up. Allegedly, obviously, we could, you know, it could all be in Roswell, but according to my internet searches, there is nothing that supports the extraterrestrial theory, which is wah wah boring.
You know
Your
who I blame?
government approved Google search.
Yep.
You know what I blame? Lack of evidence. The British.
What?
Because the British found all of ancient Egypt, like, and tore it all apart and took so many things and ate mummies. And
Ate
ruined.
Eight mummies?
You didn't know that?
No.
Look it up. They were
I
eating
believe you.
Look it up.
like leather, like jerky.
Ew, that's
And they bought
disgusting.
and sold so many ancient artifacts from Egypt that I bet we lost so many artifacts that I'm not saying artifacts that could have led to the alien theory, but just artifacts in general were lost because of these British people just taking things. I'm right.
Just kidding.
Colleen is right.
That's like a known internet fact.
I didn't
You
know
guys didn't
that.
know
Or
that.
they used it for medicinal purposes.
He ate a mummy.
Ew, that's cannibalism.
They were doing that up into the 1900s.
Yeah, I know. That's what's nasty.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like the 1900s is only like 100 years ago. The exponential growth in education from then to now is what blows my mind and what gives me that central view.
Well, it's just because
How can we start learning so much more in only 100 years?
but are we learning more?
Well, like just with technology.
Technology allows for the dissemination of information, but
But it
is
teaches
our
us
youth
things.
actually smarter? Have you seen the TikToks?
Well, I'm like recent data and shit, and like medicine, for
No.
example, has grown so much in just 100 years. Like people were eating a mummy only 100 years ago because they thought it would make them feel better.
yeah.
That's stupid. That's what drives me. That's
Well, I
why
mean,
can't
it's
wrap my head
it's
around
a theory, right? I mean,
Eat a
we
human?
get medicine, and we understand medicine through theory.
it. Yeah.
So you can't test a theory without actually doing it. So maybe that was a theory,
I don't know. But that's why I'm like, if we were only
which was
eating,
probably not good.
if we were
but
only eating dead bodies 100 years ago, what the heck were they doing in 3000 BC? That's what I mean. That's why I'm like, there's no way
child
they could
brides.
be making pyramids by themselves.
Yeah.
That's where my perspective comes from.
Okay.
But anyways, go ahead.
So, what I would really like to talk to you guys about is really how cool the Egyptians were
Nerd.
and how kind of amazing these structures are and the technology that they used to build them. Because I feel like the ancient Egyptians need their moment, okay? We are giving them their moment.
Every middle school girls. Did we not all have an ancient Egypt era?
I had a mummy era.
That counts. That
yeah.
counts.
Not
That
have
counts.
the ancient Egypt era.
Were you eating them?
No, I was watching the movie. Brendan
Oh, I
Fraser.
love that movie.
Love that movie.
Okay, give us their moment. What did they do?
Okay, so history, historians have uncovered these really cool facts. Let me tell you a little bit about the pyramids.
And these are all proofs.
These are proofs.
Okay.
Okay. So, like I said, Khufu was the one who designed the Great Pyramid of Giza. This is the largest pyramid. However, he wasn't the first person that wanted to, bury himself in a pyramid. He just is the first person that created a big one. So anyway, these pyramids were built because they were just like fancy burial tombs. Right. The idea is that the ancient Egyptians believed that their body needed to be preserved so that when their soul left them and went to the afterlife, it would come back to their body for like sustenance and renewal. I guess it needed to eat or something from the body. They all point due north. So this is like the precision of like them all pointing the same exact direction is another reason why people think like clearly extraterrestrials had to do this.
Like, were they thinking about that?
Yeah. Yes. It has something to do with what I think you said about the sun god. Like they wanted to point due north towards.
It probably has to do with how the shadows flow around it.
Right. And
That's crazy.
so that's how they figured out how to actually get them to point due north is that they studied the shadows and they studied exactly where the sun would be like directly above them. And then again, like, like nautical navigation, the North Star. Everybody knew in, back in the ancient times, like they were really good at reading the stars. And apparently the North Star doesn't move ever.
That's why they call it the North Star.
Yeah. Well, obviously Colleen knows
know
everything. No, how do you know that?
That's like a navigational skill set.
Oh, well, I didn't.
I am actually with Colleen on this. I'm with Colleen on this one.
What is Bourbon Boy teaching you? No, you're gonna get lost.
I'm directionally challenged.
Did you never grow up watching Survivor Man?
No.
Oh my god, I love that show.
All right, Colleen, when you're on a plane and you're looking for your allies, Kate is not one of them.
I can cook.
Yeah, but
No, actually, I wouldn't want to live.
I'm also just thinking
Just
about
take me out.
what the sky would look like then.
Oh my gosh, absolutely beautiful.
So, like, hold on. How many hours of a day were they building this? Because they didn't have electricity.
No.
So they could only operate, and like, I'll give them maybe 10 hours out of the day. 20 years is not enough.
Moving on. So these ancient Egyptians, they were like really big on like perfection. They studied a lot. These engineers wanted to make everything perfect. They were meticulous. These, like I said, these mathematicians, engineers, they tracked the shadows and they sort of figured out how to get these pyramids pointed due north. There is like you asked, does it have something to do with the sun god? It's unclear. There's no like textbook about there's no text that they've uncovered.
Proof, but
yeah, there's no text that they have uncovered, but historians believe it was probably likely due to like the soul leaving the body and moving into the afterlife,
Sure.
like having a unhindered way north up.
Interesting.
Okay. So the pyramids are also built out of limestone. Well, the period of Giza is built of limestone and marble. Limestone is actually a very soft stone, and granite's pretty hard. It's like I don't know. It's like if limestone was a 1, granite is like a 5, and like how hard it is to cut. So basically these archaeologists have uncovered tools that they think were used to cut the limestones, and it's actually pretty easy. They used copper saws and then hammers with rocks, and they also used these like drills that were sort of like forked at the bottom with copper, like a copper rod coming out of the fork and a rock on top, and they would, screw and drill into these.
One-man job or like
No, multiple men. I mean, I'm getting to that.
We haven't even gotten to like moving these stones.
Yeah.
I'm already just thinking about like
how long?
how fit
I was
these
thinking this
guys
too.
would have had. I'm just like picturing them
Like, this is
hammering away.
CrossFit.
Was this
know?
only men doing this?
Yes, only men.
And like, how long did it take just to chisel a rock?
That's a great question.
And the 21 years counts from the first stone, or just
just one pyramid took 20 years,
I don't believe
and that was the largest pyramid.
that's not enough time.
Like over 70,000 hours spent, and then if you have how many people working at a time.
I'd like to see how long it took. I know you don't have these numbers, but I'm just trying to guesstimate how long it took them to chisel one rock, and then multiply that by 1,000,000.
Yeah.
And then how long did it take to stack a rock? I don't know.
I think this is actually a pretty fun fact. Okay, so limestone can be cut by a copper stone. It's been done. Archaeologists did that. But you know what can't be cut by a copper saw? Granite.
So how'd they do it?
That's such a good question.
They have dynamite?
The ancient Egyptians were really smart. Apparently, if you use sand with the copper, it will cut right through a granite.
How'd they figure that out?
Because they weren't on TikTok. All they had to do was sit there and figure it out. That's all they had. There was nothing else.
Were they like pro math and science?
Yeah.
Like,
I just have been saying this whole time they were
no, but like, were they treating like well, I guess they weren't called mathematicians.
Yeah.
I'm trying to compare it to like also like ancient Greece too, and how there's like a fine balance between research and religion. So I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure the whole reason why the pyramids were built had to do with like religion and the afterlife, right?
Yeah. Was the guy who's like directing it? Was it the pharaoh directing it?
Yeah, it was the pharaoh's project.
Because are we assuming the king is the smart one?
No, of course he has his advisors.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. He was just like, I want that. And he was like, bring me the smartest people.
Or some of these pharaohs were like young too.
Yeah, they're like teenagers.
Yeah.
All right, so they use sand. That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Grit.
And this has been they have redone this. Archaeologists have like redone this in a lab. Like that you can cut.
I bet they have the time to figure out. Like they know how long it took with that one cube.
They probably do. You could probably Google it.
Keep talking.
Okay. So let's talk about moving the stones. There's lots of theories about moving the stones. Okay, so have you guys ever heard of a pulley?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's the method that they used. They used pulleys, and guess what? There's a hieroglyphic
of how they did it.
Apparently, this is in this, have you guys ever tried to move anything through sand? It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
It's like so hard to move anything with sand. Well, guess what is so close to these pyramids? The Nile.
They exploded? How close are we talking?
So the quarries that they would dig these limestones and granite out of, they were like down the Nile, and so they would take these
and then
stones
down,
and they would use water to bring them down, and then they would move the stones by a pulley system, and they added water. This is actually depicted. they added water to the sand to make the sand smoother and like
Hard.
there would be less friction, and they moved the stones that way by multiple men pulling on a rope. Could you imagine their grip strength?
Are they moving them on a boat, and how many do they move at a time?
I think that they used
Raft
rafts to move
'Cause,
them
like,
down the river from
how
the
heavy
quarry.
is 1 block.
2.5 tons. They figured it out. So the Nile was like central to how the Egyptians like survived, right? So like that it was part of like a long line of like docks and trade through the Nile.
1 block, 50 hours.
Okay.
Just wait until you hear how many people were on these projects.
I was just about to say, I Googled over here, and because I'm doing math, because Colleen's just like 20 years is not enough. And if they put, does this match what you saw? 30,000 people? Okay.
There's
Yeah.
more than that.
Okay.
Oh.
What I found is that the father of lies claimed 100,000 people built the pyramids, but that modern Egyptologists believe it was more like 30,000. I just did all the math on like, okay, 10 hours a day. And then if we believe that there were 30,000 people, it sounds like Kate thinks there was more than that.
Right.
But 30,000 people, we round down, worked on this, and you do the math, that is over 2.1 billion hours spent building pyramids. So I don't think that the 20 years is enough.
Anyway, they were loaded on boats, floated down the river, like I already said. And then how did they get up the pyramid? And the answer is ramps. Easy, simple ramps. There's lots of theories of what kind of ramps they actually used. One is a straight ramp. And actually some of these are seen in like the older pyramids that are part of the ruins in other areas. A zigzag.
So it's really, really slow incline.
With like switchbacks?
What's a switchback?
I also
Well, it's like when you zigzag when you
Yes.
hike. So if you go and then you turn around and go and then turn around and
Yes. Yeah.
a switchback.
That's
and
it.
then
Yeah.
it also goes back to how hollow were they?
And then, well, no, there's an internal ramp theory, which is what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
And then the zigzag was like external. And then some of them talk about a wraparound. But the wraparound has been like sort of debunked because in order to get the stones up, they couldn't see where they were going. So they kind of like
'Cause, like,
debunked that.
Were they building it like 3D printing, like layer,
Yes.
layer?
Yes.
Okay.
But so there was like an internal ramp theory where there's actually ramps that are actually inside the pyramid. And then there's also a theory that there's like ramps. The
On
pyramid
site.
was the actual ramp, but that would be
Thinking
like
about-
very steep. So they think there were ramps, but there's no like evidence that they have found that actually that what kind of ramp they used, but they were using ramps.
And they're just pushing it up the ramp?
They were using a pulley system. While you were over here thinking about
No,
the-
I heard pulley system, but
Yeah.
were they lifting it up with a pulley system? Like, how does the pulley system affect the ramp? Because pulley just moves up.
No, pulley
isn't
I'm
lateral.
talking about a pulley across the sand. That's what I was saying with the
A pulley
sand.
is a wheel up on the top with rope
Yeah, you can use a pulley to pull things too.
horizontally.
Yeah.
I'll
Did
just
you
look it up.
did you hear what I said about the sand getting wet
Yes.
and they would pull these stones and there was multiple like men
But I don't get
like
how
on
they use
around
it.
these ropes and they would pull the
No, I know.
pulley. A vertical pulley is a type of pulley system.
Okay, I just didn't.
There are horizontal pulley systems as well.
Okay.
Like when you think of like the old time, you know how people used to hang their clothes out the window and there was a pulley on the window?
No, I think if there were, say there were like 100 men on this pulley and they're all just pulling and walking,
Yeah.
then I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
As opposed to like trying to push a,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this was like a really big thing that happened recently. In 2018, there were these archaeologists that were from Liverpool and they were digging and lo and behold, they found an ancient quarry ramp that like they think may have like helped the ancient Egyptian move stones. So Yannis Gurdon from the French Institute for Oriental Archaeology in Cairo said, quote, "The system is composed of a central ramp flanked by 2 staircases with numerous post holes. Using a sled, which carried a stone block and was attached with ropes to these wooden posts," okay, there's wood, "ancient Egypts were able to pull the alabaster blocks out of the quarry on very steep slopes of 20% or more," end quote. So they found this like ancient quarry with a ramp. There were 2 staircases, and they were, this is the coolest fact that I think that I uncovered about this. Like, pulleys are cool. I think them like, using water to wet the sand and make it less like easier for them to move. I think that's actually very smart, and like they used what they could to kind of figure out how to, but I think this is the coolest. Going back to the workers, archaeologists have actually uncovered a whole town that was dedicated to home these workers while they were building these pyramids. There is evidence that shows that these towns had like bakeries, hospitals, they had fish markets, there's beer brewing evidence. Like they had administrative buildings in these towns. There was thought to be men were like the workers and the ones who were actually doing the construction on the pyramids, but women also lived in these towns. And this place is actually called Hayt el Ghurab, which is also known as the lost city of the pyramid builders. And this town only dates back to like not the person who, not during Khufu's reign, but during Khafra and Menkura. So those are the 2 pharaohs that are after him.
And to go back to the slave theory, these workers were paid, so not slaves.
Well, I don't think they had money back then.
They were just...
So it's like they were working for food and beer is what I read.
Oh.
So that makes sense.
Which is what was accurate then.
Yeah, which would make sense then if it's like they maybe,
I don't know.
come move here temporarily and build these pyramids, and it makes sense to be like everyone's going to live in this little town because we want you to just like work all
like
the time.
It's very much like a military type, right?
Like a deployment, and then it's like go over to the brewery after work,
right,
and get your beer,
have your fish,
because you're not getting money.
And actually, like, there is evidence that supports these people were actually fed very well, like like the royal highness was fed.
Who's funding it?
The pharaoh.
Where's the funding to do all this?
They probably had very extensive trade,
taxation, and tribute from conquered territories.
I'm just trying to picture, like, there must have been so many Egyptians, like the population of the Egyptians. Like, you need at least, we're saying, at least 30,000 that was just in that 20 years. Like,
Reddit said that at this time there were like 2 million.
Like, that was a packed place to be.
Yeah, that Egypt had millions of people, and then tens of thousands were working on this.
I feel like you could throw a pebble and hit like an artifact in Egypt. Like, there must have been that many people that there must be just stuff everywhere in that ground.
Oh yeah,
like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Back to your point about them eating really well, like, again, and back to our point about how fit these people have to be.
Oh my god,
like the calories that must be burned each day.
Yeah,
you can't have people like passing out on the
on
the line.
People died in the construction.
Oh, the archaeologists have uncovered like remains of people. Yeah.
They found in the 90s a cemetery nearby where they think they buried anybody who died while building the pyramids, and it says it was very nice. They were like treated very highly, and they were buried with expensive things that they could use in the afterlife.
Oh,
so
that's
sounds
nice.
like well respected to be a builder.
Very much like the military.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you do your time, you get respect.
Yeah, you get fed.
You're building a pyramid.
You get shelter. I mean, who knows, like, what life was like back then.
And like that's
If
what
they're
they
being
believe
fed well and their families are being fed well and
is worth it, especially if you were young.
yeah. Anyway, they were like they were split into groups, and then those groups were split into different groups called sahas, and those were then given their own tasks. So they would be like in a group of 10 or a group of 20, and each of them were working towards one specific task.
You cut that rock.
Well, I feel like the rocks were cut in a quarry down the stream.
So a different group.
So a different group of people. And this was actually the construction.
Someone bringing it up the Nile.
Yeah.
Somebody.
I want to know.
Yeah, that was like the Navy would bring it up the Nile, you know.
Who do you think laid the first rock? That guy.
I feel like Pharaoh, like, wouldn't it be like a Pharaoh thing?
yeah.
He'd be like, it's like the ceremony cutting up the ribbon.
It's
I
like-
did that.
Like George Washington starting the Washington.
And I
Monument.
wonder
Yeah.
if they like built a bunch of rocks as like a startup.
It was like George Washington building the Capitol.
Oh, building.
He did not build his own.
Yeah, I said, yeah, like I knew what you were talking about. I know more about the history of Westeros than I do about the history of America. What?
Now you know a lot about Egypt.
Yeah.
I'm like, what were they eating? Like, they must have all been in
Fish.
such a calorie deficit.
I think they ate a lot of fish from the Nile.
That's crazy.
The Nile.
Well, there had to probably be people, maybe less than women were doing that also, who were just working to like feed these people.
But I just think it's really cool that they like made this town for these, like, everybody has sort of had the same, you know, project, and they made this town and they housed these people and they gave them food, and
Very
because it was it was like they were caring for, which, like, I mean, was it caring for these men who had to be out in the sun for hours upon hours and just straining muscles? And
it's very much like the military. Like they all did contract.
Yeah.
That is very interesting.
Government workers. So government workers built
the pyramids.
Built the pyramids.
You know what?
What?
Our taxes built the pyramids.
Well,
not our taxes.
Not ours.
Theirs.
Yeah.
Their taxes built the pyramids.
They had taxation and representation, though. So,
Sure.
I mean, I feel like Pharaoh is the representation, right?
But it was a dictatorship.
But that's a dictatorship.
Yeah.
There's no representation in a dictatorship.
I don't know.
I wonder if they had riots.
Anyway.
Is that ever? Did you hear anything about riots? Like against it?
I was specifically going for the building of the pyramids. There was so much information, I couldn't do it all. Like, we could do a whole episode on ancient Egypt.
I know, we could.
Anyway, that's the pyramids, guys. That's
Definitely not aliens.
No, not aliens.
Definitely
Actually, I
not.
think, isn't it cool though? I actually had a really good time researching, because I think, like, how smart are these people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, these, you know, they used what they had.
I think they had a lot of himbos with muscle. And probably 20 really.
What I would do to those himbos, that's all I'm thinking of,
They
you know?
probably
That's what Megan's over here. She's like, these men are fit.
15 really smart mathematicians and like 300,000 hot, fit men.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure there's data out there, but they probably had like a baby boomer generation specifically for building the pyramids. They probably popped babies out on purpose. in
No, those
preparation.
women were like, these men can get it.
But you do, I bet
Then there's no birth control back then.
no, that's what I'm saying. Like a boom in population, specifically.
Related to the fitness of these men.
Yeah. Fitness in my mouth.
Yeah.
What ended ancient Egypt? Rome? Ancient Rome? Cleopatra? Because Cleopatra was at the very end.
I don't know. What ended ancient Egypt?
Alexander the Great
Egypt
and his Greek
did
army
Rome.
conquered ancient
I
Egypt.
thought Alexander the Great was Greek.
In 332 BC, Alexander the Great and his Greek army.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Rome.
That's what I
Julius
literally just
Caesar.
said.
Julius Caesar was Rome, and he dated. No, he was Greek too, right?
No, Caesar.
Caesar and Cleopatra.
30 BC, 300 years later, the Romans invaded ancient Egypt.
Oh, okay.
Boom.
They defeated the Pharaoh Cleopatra, and Egypt became part of the Roman Empire.
Mic
How
drop.
did you know that?
So it was
Because
Which
Julius.
movie?
Well, there is a Cleopatra movie,
Yeah.
but that's not what I was with the lady from Breakfast from
Elizabeth Taylor played
Mm,
You're thinking about
Cleopatra.
that's what I'm. Didn't she play?
No,
Cleopatra?
Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh.
Diamonds are forever. That's what she was in.
But you guys were both right. You guys were both right then.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
The Greeks took over. That ended ancient Egypt, and then the Romans took over after that.
Yeah.
And they stabbed Caesar in the back.
So what? Okay, so we're all on board that this
We're
is
all
not
on board.
very uncommon for us all to agree that there's nothing
Yeah.
sus happening.
Yeah.
There had to have been so many people.
Yeah, I think there was
So many people.
yeah, there was a ton of people.
I just that's why I'm like they should have been writing that shit down. I don't care about the pharaoh. I care about the man who built the rock. That's what I want to know more about now.
Well, they're still uncovering text.
I know.
There's just going to be continual information. This is evolving information
And again,
constantly.
I blame a lot of our missing info on the British.
Yeah. Freaking British.
Eating mummies.
Yeah. Weirdos. Although the liver
Return that statue. You guys know what I'm talking about?
is that a vine?
No,
Oh.
there's it's like a famous thing that like the British Ancient History Museum has a famous Egyptian statue that is like one of 6, and 5 of them are together in an Egyptian museum.
And they sold
And
the 6.
England won't give one of them away.
That's rude.
Mm-hmm.
They're like finders keepers.
And they're like, she's lonely. Oh, and in the museum with the 5 of them, they have her spot empty, ready to be filled when England gives it up.
Oh,
Sad.
that is sad. She is lonely.
Anti-alien, pro misreported numbers. That's my result for the pyramids
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Yeah.
This is my theory, but I do think I mean, power to the humans, you know? Ancient Egypt.
Yeah. I mean, the visuals are
How long do you
insane.
think these people actually lived?
That's going to add to the numbers? Because, like,
I mean, they can't
They're
have lived that
probably
long, right?
malnourished, overwork.
Well, they were fed very well.
There's no OSHA. So, like, they're just,
Yeah, they probably worked from sunup till sundown.
yeah, 10 hours I give them.
They probably died when they were like 40.
Oh,
That's my
Right.
thought.
well, I'm thinking pharaohs didn't live long because there's a lot of incest with them.
What?
Looking at several cemeteries from ancient Egyptian time,
Right.
the average life expectancy for males was only 25,
Oh, said that.
but the females
36.
37.
Wow.
I'm really good.
Didn't hear you say it.
It's recorded playback.
No, I believe you. I
Alright.
believe you. I just didn't hear you.
All right, Kate. One more time. What should the people do?
Scroll on down, leave us a 5-star review, leave us a comment, follow us on social media, share us with your friends, share us with your family, share us in your group text, share us on your social media platforms. And yeah, thank you for listening to number 2 from Kate. Hope you guys liked it. Number 1, sound quality was off. We took it off. Never mind.
Pending audio fixing.
Under construction,
All right. Well, thank you for
much
joining
like
us.
the pyramids for the next 20 years.
Crazy. The tip of the pyramid of Giza was gold.
Yeah, Khufu really had some. He was very.
Some shmoney.
An ego.
Yeah, he had an ego, and he wanted to build the biggest one. And I think his dad built 3, but they were all small. And then Khufu was like, "Hold on,
You know what they say about
I'm
ancient
gonna
pharaohs?
build a pyramid."
You know
What?
you know what they say about ancient pharaohs?
Small pyramid.
Big pyramid.
Oh.
Yeah,
Small.
compensating for something, you know. Whatever. He's like, I'm gonna be living the good life in
I
the
bet
afterlife.
Those hieroglyphics of him
They depicted.
are a little exaggerated.
You think?
Probably.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. And we'll see you
See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.